My name is Jerome, and I've spent the last 3 decades learning and teaching about African American history. I was raised in a multicultural home where I was taught to seek the truth and work toward justice. You see, it is my belief that through education and the pursuit of truth, we can fix the injustices that exist in the world. I welcome you to Time Out for Black History. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Time Out for Black History. Just a reminder, make sure that you go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so that you get the updates, and share it out if you're finding it interesting. Today, what I wanted to talk about is something that I launched about 8 months ago, and it was through my Things White Guys Say podcast with Josh Luke, and we were talking about ways in which people could assist the movement, this movement toward racial equality. And so my Time Out for Black History is a piece of that larger issue. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. And I use the term, the phrase redemption. Redemption is the acronym I use, RED, as we go through to articulate out ways in which the average person can help change the culture of America. So the first letter is R, redemption. In the word redemption is R. And so that word refers to record. Okay, and so I think it's important that we actively are involved in the interactions between our law enforcement and our population. And if you witness or see something inappropriate happening, that you hit record. When you think about all of the examples of police brutality that we've seen, the only ones that ever get any credibility at all are the ones where there's actual videotape of the abuse happening. And even then, we don't always get justice for them. But at least that gives a fighting chance for some semblance of justice. So record is that first one. The second one is endorse. And that goes back to the idea of endorsing candidates. This isn't a political position. Endorsing candidates that are actively trying to deal with racial injustice. Okay, and finding those candidates and making sure that we get those candidates on the ticket and get those candidates into office so we can have a chance at addressing those issues. The D in redemption refers to discernment. And essentially, all we're talking about there is the beginning of looking at your beliefs and challenging them, discerning truth from stereotype, truth from lies, so that we can actually see the real truth. That's part of Time Out for Black History, is the ability for you to be able to discern it by getting that education. And that's the fourth letter, the E, is education. That you're educating yourself on these issues so that you do have the ability to discern that information. So we got record, right? We got endorse, we got discernment, and we got education so far. Okay? The M stands for motivate. And the motivate is referring to, once we get people elected, you have to be an active member in making sure that they are doing what we elected them to do. Letters, calls to the office, social media influence, trying to put pressure on our elected officials to push the legislation through that will allow for the changes to occur in society that we're hoping to change. Okay, so that motivation, they need that motivation because they have to know that their constituents care about that issue so that they can get reelected the next time. Persistence. This one I think is one of the most important. I remember when the protests were happening after George Floyd's murder, I turned to a friend and I said, the energy has to stay. whatever we do now, we've got to keep going, because soon it dies. The energy level dies. We go back to our normal lives and we forget. And that's why long-term change doesn't come. So we have to stay persistent. We have to remember what happened as a result of the George Floyd murder, and that isn't an isolated incident, and that we have to continue. And again, I'm talking about the racial inequalities that exist in this country, in education, in politics, in society, in economics, all those different ways. And so persistence is important, that you stay true to the fight, and that it's not something that ebbs and flows depending on whatever else is going on in your life at the time. Okay, tenacity. Okay, and this is a tough one too, because I think that this one is one that challenges a lot of people. Your ability to actively challenge those people in your life that aren't on the cause of racial justice. To challenge those people who hold beliefs that aren't true. And to be somebody that reaches out and attempts to pull them in. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find people who don't understand or want to understand better and pull them in. And you've got to be tenacious. You've got to know what you're talking about. You have to be able to explain why it's important that they see the world in a different light. So you've got to be tenacious. Invest money, time, energy in these causes. Find groups that are pushing racial equality. You yourself, spend your time, find time to push the ideas of racial equality. Okay, so you've got to invest in it also. And I'll put more out there about areas in which that can happen. Your own openness. So we're all the way down to the O, and the O is openness. Your ability to leave your comfort zone. Your ability to challenge yourself in ways that you haven't challenged yourself before. And that openness to hearing new information that goes against what you've been taught or what you believe. That's a tough moment. That moment that you accept that something you've always said and thought is wrong. There's a part of us that says, oh, my life's a lie now. Think about all the things I've done wrong. No one cares. It's what you do today. Once you're made aware of that information, it's what you do at that point that determines what kind of man or what kind of woman you are in your development as a person. So you got to be open to that change. And lastly, we've got to create a new normal for our children, for our students. We've got to create a society that is different than the one that we grew up in. A society that doesn't accept these things. A society that doesn't think that there's good people on both sides of the white supremacy debate. We've got to change that. So again, we got record. Okay? We've got endorse. We've got discern. We've got educate. Motivate. Persistency. We got tenacity. We got invest. We got openness, and we got the new normal. Pick any one of them. Begin to push yourself in that arena, and you'll find your comfort level in talking about this increases. You'll find your feelings that you're part of the solution and not part of the problem gets better. I hope you listened to this whole one, that you took it down. And I look forward to talking to you in the next episode. Remember, subscribe, hit that like button, share, and hit that notification bell. See you soon.